reconnaissance parties did not end up finding is the battle-hardened German 90th Panzergrenadier Division lying in wait nearby. Although prepared in a hurry, the defenses of the Hitler Line were still impressive. Built off a western section of the recently breached Gustav Line, the Hitler Line was about 55 kilometers long, with defenses up to 800 meters deep. Of greatest concern to the Ontarios were deadly camouflaged Panther turret positions, which were Panther tank turrets encased in concrete bunkers buried in the ground. Armed with a 75mm cannon, Panther terms were highly lethal to the Ontario's Sherman tanks, while themselves being difficult to spot and hit with return fire. 2 or 3 other 75mm or 50mm towed anti-tank guns also were installed around each Panther term. As if they were not enough, the line also was covered with plenty of other artillery, anti-tank, and machine gun pillbox positions, along with anti-tank ditches, barbed wire, and minefields. Bold and resolute as ever, the 90th Panzergrenadier Division is not about to give up their positions on a defensive line bearing their Führer's name. As we see the Germans entering the field and setting up their positions, closest to you, you see a Panzer III tank. Been in service since about 1937 by that point, but still a very formidable weapon, 50mm cannon. Good enough to take out a Sherman, still highly lethal. Over on the far side of the field, that is a Hanomag SD KFZ 251 half-track, the ride of the Panzer Grenadiers, who were what we now call mechanized infantry. They could each carry a section of about 10 soldiers in the back, who would then often dismount and set up their own defenses and fight on foot, while the vehicle itself could offer machine gun fire. Closest to the fence, you also notice a PaK 36 anti-tank gun. Also had been in service for a long time by that point, and struggling to take out some newer Allied vehicles, but still not a threat to take lightly. And finally, just coming in the arena, a Stug 3 assault gun, highly lethal to Sherman tanks. For the main attack, each of the regiment's squadrons has a task. B Squadron joins British infantry of the 5th Battalion, the Buffs, Royal East Kent Regiment, in advancing along a main road toward Aquino and clearing out the enemy to force an opening in the line's defenses. Then the British 26th Armoured Brigade would exploit that opening and breach the Hitler line through a crushing rapid advance. To stay in contact with the tank crews, the Buffs bring along their signals section in a universal carrier. C Squadron is held in reserve, ready to assist wherever needed. A Squadron, meanwhile, advances on the airfield from the northeast, covering the right flank and cutting off a possible path of retreat for German units. The airfield and its approaches are thick with fog, and at first, there is no sight of the enemy. Now, it's a nice sunny day for us, but imagine, if you will, advancing onto an airport that's covered with fog and you can't see 100 meters in front of you. That's scary enough driving on a paved road for us right now. But in tanks where you're trying to spot the enemy, I couldn't imagine myself. Not to break the fourth wall here, folks, but cover your ears.
Imagine being this close to the enemy and still not being able to see each other. You can imagine the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. Still advancing cautiously, trying to make contact with the enemy on their terms.
As the fog begins to clear, the E Squadron and the Buffs are pinned down in a storm of anti-tank cannon and machine gun fire in the cemetery. With the Panther appears having just as much cover as they do, the Zeros and the Buffs are struggling for every inch of ground. Things are going no better for A Squadron at the north end of the airfield. Only 2 hours into the attack, Panther terms and tank destroyers have already taken out 3 Shermans in quick succession. The rest of the squadron is pinned down in a depression as it tries to avoid enemy fire. They try to move forward to take aim at the German defenses, but cannot get a clear shot without risking getting hit. As the situation worsened by the hour, many Ontarios showed incredible courage as they put their lives on the line to come to their comrades' aid. When the regiment's smoke cover grew thin, Sergeant Ken Braithwaite and Trooper Kelly Turcott hurried back to base to fetch an M3 Stuart and load it with smoke canisters. They lined the canisters in strategic locations to obscure the enemy's view. See from the Stuart on the far side of the arena, Sergeant Braithwaite and Trooper Turcott restoring the smoke cover that these Shermans so sorely needed after the fog had cleared so suddenly and they're caught out in the open. To do that all under fire is short of a heroic effort. You've been with us for a while, an interesting connection. We once had a veteran visit Ralph Kearney, who has since sadly passed on. He and
Sergeant and Braithwaite were brothers in law.
Unwilling to sit idly as the mayhem unfolded before him, the regimental chaplain's driver, Trooper Cecil Westover, raced back and forth from the combat zone to evacuate wounded comrades in his jeep. He continued this task for 3 straight days, saving about 180 soldiers. The situation becomes especially confused when the Buff's commanding officer and signal section are all killed when their carrier takes a direct hit from German artillery. The B Squadron lost all contact with the infantry and struggled to fire on the enemy without a serious risk of friendly fire.
Sense of how dire this is now. The Ontario's have lost over 10 tanks, and the infantry signals section that they were relying on to communicate with between infantry and tanks are all killed in action. Never at any point beyond this do the tanks and infantry restore any communication whatsoever, even through their brigade headquarters. All day exposed and under heavy fire on the airfield, it was clear that the attack from the British 26th Armored Brigade was not going to happen. Much to their shock, the Ontarios have lost 13 tanks to enemy fire. Trooper John Phillips had been killed, and several officers also were badly wounded. A Squadron's own commanding officer, Major Harry Millen, had been shot in the head by a sniper and struck by shrapnel, although he luckily survived his injuries. Seeing the urgent need to withdraw, Captain Arthur Bud Hawkins, call sign Peter Roger Charlie 1, takes command and calls on the 392nd Battery, 98th Field Regiment of Royal Artillery, call sign George Peter Able 22, for artillery support to cover their withdrawal.
All artillery units in range, this is Peter Roger Charlie 1. Uncle target, uncle target, uncle target. We are pinned down on the airfield and taking heavy fire. We need support bad if we're going to get out of here. Any artillery unit, please respond. Over. Hello, Peter Roger Charlie 1. This is George Peter Amo 22. We hear you. Help is on the way. Send fire mission coordinates. Over. Hello, George Peter Able 22. We need smoke and high explosive at 764215. Over. Psychology. Stand by for fire mission. Out. George Peter Able 22, this is Peter Roger Charlie 1. Where's that artillery? Over. Peter Roger Charlie 1, this is George Peter Able 22. Go in. Hold up. Ready to move. Standing by for further. Out. 2-2, this is Peter, Roger, Charlie 1. Repeat. You're still under fire, over. Peter, Roger, Charlie 1. Confirm you want to repeat the fire mission, over. Yes, fire again, now, over. Acknowledge. Second fire mission inbound, over. Peter Able 2-2. This is Peter, Roger, Charlie 1. We're clear. That was quite a show. Thanks for the assist, over. Always happy to oblige. Peter, Roger, Charlie 1. Out.
And that, folks, is the Battle of Aquino.